my mortgage, interest, taxes, or insurance and taxes and all that is about 1210 per month. And then between the three roommates, I'm taking in 1950 per month.
What's up, YouTube family? I have an interview with Tolins, and I'm super excited about this. Him and I joined the same mastermind group. We invested in the same complex together. So he's just on the right path to success. So I want to introduce you to Tolins. He grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He went to the Navy Academy and decided to go Marines. He commissioned in May of 2019. He is a second lieutenant. He found his passion for real estate while waiting to join flight school in Pensacola. A fellow company mate was investing in real estate, and he decided to start taking action. So he joined active duty passive income and bought a house there in Pensacola. 4 bedrooms. He's renting out the other 3. The house cash flows, and he's just killing it in the real estate market. And he is now currently working on his first commercial multifamily deal. He did become an LP in the same deal that I did, the 172 unit in Georgia. And so he is putting his money where his mouth is. He is taking action. And so let's jump into it. So let's just start off by talking first of all, why did you join the Navy or the Marines?
So great question. So really the military growing up, I just always thought it was kind of going to be where I ended up. I don't really know why, but I just felt I wanted to go there. But at the same time, like my dad pressed academics in school, and, he really wanted me to go to college. So the service academy is kind of the perfect marrying up of that, right? You go get a degree, but I would still get to serve like I wanted to. And kind of the big motivation there is, I had I would say a pretty, great upbringing. Like I had a lot of opportunity, I had a pretty good life, and it was like, I love this country. I love what it did for me in my childhood. Like I got to give back somehow. Right. And so military service was kind of the perfect answer there. Right. Like, how can I say thank you for the childhood that I had? Right. And make sure other people continue to get that. Right. So that was my big motivator to join the military. And then the academy was the route, just because I also wanted to go to college. So just married the timelines together, in a solid way. And so, that got me to there. And then within the academy, you can either go Navy or Marines. I wanted to fly. And the reason I picked Marine Corps was just because I absolutely love the platforms because of the missions they have. And the mission is, it's all about supporting that Marine on the ground. So, the Marine Corps in general is very infantry based, right? It's all about that Marine on the ground. But then, that translates to flying too. There's no aircraft that does a job that doesn't directly support the infantry. And I loved that mission set. And so that's what gets me like really excited to hop in some of these platforms and fly for the Marine Corps. So
that's awesome. It kind of shows your personality and how you like to support other people. And I love that. So good on you. So let's go with that. You said that you had a fellow Academy graduate that helped kind of introduce you to ADPI, because that's kind of where your investing career started. Is that right? Or did it start long before that?
So it started long before that with actually one of my, it was a teacher of mine at the Academy, and he kind of got he got the ball rolling, but really just in terms of like, starting an IRA, right? Like starting some like basic index fund investments, like kind of just getting that, like, dusting off cobwebs. But what really fueled it was this classmate that I was telling you about. His name is Jun Shin. He's pretty well known in the commercial multifamily space. He's been on a few podcasts here and there. He was on the ADPI podcast a little while back.
Yeah, saw him.
And his story was incredibly motivating. And me and him were actually company mates. We spent a lot of time together at the academy. And near his senior year, he started kind of posting on like his Instagram about like, I have to do passive income, real estate. And we kind of all just noticed, and we're like, oh, that's like his thing, I guess. Like, that's cool, whatever. And then, but like more and more, I saw the posts of like, hey, close on my first property. Like, I'm going to this meetup. Like, I'm doing that. And it was just like, dang, that's kind of cool, huh? Like I wonder if I could do that. And it turned into this thing of like, I would see a post from him and I'd be like, damn, like be kind of jealous about it, right? I was like, I wish I like knew how to do that, And then it got to a point where I was on a 24-hour watch here in Pensacola, and it was like, 3 a.m. It was my turn. Gunny was taking his rest plan, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this is dumb. Like I just typed in active duty passive income on Google and hit search. Like in that night, I took their entire VA loan mastery course. It's like 4 videos, just watch that. And like, I was like, this is not that hard. Like what, what I mean? I could totally do this. Right. And it just got me super motivated. And the next day I called him and I reached out to him, And he sat down with me for like 2 hours and just gave me a bunch of the basics and just got the ball rolling. And yeah, from there it just went on. But it just took that initial push of like, why am I scared to do this thing? And the reason was just like a lack of not knowing. And all it takes is just that one like Google search, right? Just to push you over the edge of like, oh, like I could totally do this. I just didn't take the time to see what it was even about, right? And so just getting that little push over the edge, he gave me that. And so for that, I'm ever grateful, and for that's for other people, I'm sure there's someone in your life who's doing something like this that, you know, leverage them, right? Just shoot them a call, shoot them a text, be like, how are you doing that? And can you teach me? And I'm sure they'll be more than well and happy to.
There's so much that you just talked about there. They talked about somebody that's a mentor, somebody that you can go and trust. There, you took massive action. You found something that he was doing, aligned with your goals, and you're sitting there. Same with me. Like the military is not easy. It takes a lot of time, and we realize that we don't want to have to work, a 9 to 5 job the rest of our lives. Go to work, come home, eat with dinner with our kids, and have them go to bed. Like that's kind of what's motivating me to do this. And it sounds like that's similar to you. You want to have that financial freedom, not only to serve, but also not have to worry about a paycheck once you get out of the Marines. So my head's spinning because I love what you said is that you took action. You could have been like everybody else that saw those posts and didn't think anything of it, but you went and you asked him and said, hey, sit down with me and teach me, show me how you did this. So what was the next step after that? Because we could all do that. We could ask somebody, but what was the next step that you took to lead you to buy your place there in Pensacola?
So yeah, so it's a great question. And yeah, that first step is definitely huge. And really what it was getting on that Facebook group and posting, right? So he told me all about active duty passive income, how he had gotten involved and how that helped him. And he gave me some advice, of his own of like how to buy a house and how to like calculate, rent and cash flow and all that crap. But really what he told me to do is he's like, look, there's this awesome group that has a lot of opportunity. Go on, make a post, say, hi, I'm Anthonytolins. I'm a, Marine in Pensacola. I'm looking to meet other investors in the area, would love to chat. Just that Facebook post, I credit like everything I've done since then to that, right? I just posted that Facebook post. From that, I started, 5 DM conversations with people from, 50 years old who have been doing this for like, 30 years, all the way down to other second lieutenants in the area who had just bought their first house, all giving me advice and tips. And I leveraged them a lot buying that first house. I got in the comments, I got referenced to like 3 different agents. ADPI is really good about at least giving you one comment on any post you make, because the moderator's always posting on there. That post I think got like 10 total comments, and from there I met a bunch of people, made phone calls. Really, so it was just like throwing yourself out there, right? And just because people want to help. Like when I called June, he was more than happy to help, but it's also like, I mean, it's a good feeling to have someone see what you're doing and reach out to you and be like, dude, how are you doing this? Like, it's a good like little stroke of the ego, you know what I mean? So he was like more than happy to help, and like people everywhere want to help in this community, which is why it's so awesome.
Yeah.
So really, that first step is finding a group. So whether that's your local real estate meetup, or whether that's a Facebook group like Active Duty Passive Income, or there's Military to Millionaire, there's a bunch of them out there. Finding one of those groups and just posting and saying, hey, I'm new. I really want to get into this. I want to learn, who are other investors in my area, and just wait for the messages to come in, wait for the comments to come in. And from there, all those questions you have stored up, that's who you start asking those questions to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now you have a bunch of people focusing on you.
Yeah, you do. You've built a network, and that's cool that you made one post, and from there you credit all that, because ADPI and really anybody, any Facebook group or real estate meetup, they're willing to help, right? But that's if you have you're not just coming to just ask questions. Like you've got to be a doer.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think that post was so important. Is you didn't just take your friend's advice, you took his advice and then acted. So that's super important, is in building that network, because then you show them that their advice means something to you. You're adding value to them, because now people know who he is. Maybe he can make more connections from you. I found that adding value to somebody else is just as important as acting yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And that's the thing. It's kind of this teeter-totter imbalance. It's like, never be afraid to ask for something, but at the same time, you never want to ask for something for free.
Yeah.
right? If you're asking for something, and it's not saying like pay for information, but like you got to figure out a way to give back. If this guy, taught me basically like, hey, here's how to find a good real estate agent, and as in the process of doing that, I like find someone that has something he wants, I'm gonna refer it back to him and be like, hey, I found this, right? So it's like you're constantly figuring out a way to feed back into the system, because what you put out is going to come back full circle. But if you just try to take, you're going to fall flat on your face. And additionally, that reputation is going to precede you. The
Yep.
next time you ask for help, no one's gonna give you help, because you never give help back, right? So that is a huge part of it, is you got to add value in whatever way you can.
Tony, this is what this is actually the first time that I've talked to you, but just by the posts that you make and everything else and the way that you're talking, you have that mentality to help other people. And that's a big thing. And Brian Briscoe talks about it. Ed Milet talks about it. Tony Robbins talks about it. All of these really big people talk about giving back. Grant Cardone, right? Rod Khleif. They all add value back, no matter how small it is. You and I are pretty much in the same boat. We don't have a lot to offer right now, but we have a willingness to learn, and we have motivation to go out and do some of the things that are menial tasks that they don't have time to do anymore. Adding value to somebody. So I love that. So with that, why did you decide to do commercial multifamily instead of continue to do the house hacking like you're doing in residential units?
That's kind of like a two-part thing. So I definitely plan to continue using single family homes, because ultimately, being in the military, I'm going to move a lot, right? And I'm since doing this and proof of concept, like it's worked once, I would like to not pay rent again. So I'm definitely going to try to buy a single family home everywhere I move. And even within that, if I'm stationed somewhere for 3 years, I could easily live in 2 different houses during those 3 years, you know? So I plan to keep that going. The reason I joined the Multifamily Academy through ADPI, and I'm jumping into multifamily real estate, is that that is the ultimate scale factor, right? So having a single family home everywhere you live, it just makes sense, right? Like if you can own a home, gain equity, get cash flow, and not pay rent, like why wouldn't you, right? If you know how to do it, it just makes sense, right? But that'll only get you so far. And if the idea is financial freedom, say you're making $300 per home, what's your financial freedom number? How many homes do you need? Like, wow, okay, you're gonna need a lot of homes, and things can start to go wrong. But if you can do a single family home everywhere you go, and then get the scalability by buying 100 unit apartment complex, then that's just one big project, or maybe even like 2 big projects, and now you're set, right? So it's just that ability to scale, and to scale with like one thing under one property manager with one situation, rather than like the equivalent passive income from a 100 unit apartment building might be like 30 single family homes potentially all over the country. That's a lot harder in my mind to deal with. It might be a lot more work to initially get that apartment under contract and bought and running, but once you have it, it's just this one massive asset that's giving you everything you need, rather than having to have like 30 spread across the country. So it seems to me to be the most scalable. Now, that being said, it is also like very, very, very daunting, right? It's a lot easier in my mind to buy a single family home and get it rented than it is to buy an apartment complex, fund it, get it rented, get property managers, do everything that needs to be done to it. So I'm definitely in that for the long haul. When I first jumped into the Multifamily Academy, I was super excited. And I was like, I'm going to get an apartment complex in the first like 6 months, especially with, especially with the realization of how intense flight school is, especially once I start primary in these next couple of months. I don't think that's necessarily realistic. But what has happened is I've already become a limited partner on that deal, like you have.
Yeah.
That even alone is going to make me more money than I invested in the education. And I only knew to do that because of that education, right? And then, from here on out, I'm going to keep learning and keep networking to the point of where maybe once I'm done with flight school and in 3 years, then I can really like get into another apartment building, all the while still buying single family homes. But like that is the ultimate goal, because that's what will ultimately scale me up to financial freedom. But I realize like it doesn't necessarily have to happen this instant. The real estate investing game is definitely a slow game, right? And a slow build. And it's just kind of a spreading myself too thin, and then coming back and realize like, okay, hold on, let's just let's do what we can do, and proceed the way we need to.
Yeah. So I love that you say that. So there's a couple of thoughts that came to mind while you were talking. One is A big thing that people I've been hearing a lot lately is I'm very low risk. And I think one of the things that you do to mitigate risk and the best thing that you can do is knowledge. Knowledge and get
Yeah.
a mentor. Get somebody who's done it before. That's why I think being an LP for the first time is probably one of the best ways that you can do unless you have a solid foundation already underneath you. Because you have somebody
Mhm.
there that you can talk to and say, hey, how did you underwrite this deal? How's it going? You have a team that already there that you can ask questions to. And then the second is I keep asking myself, like, why don't more people jump into real estate? And they are now. But I think a big thing is the horror stories. And Warren Buffett, I think, has the best quote on this is you buy fear and you sell greed. People are fearful for becoming real estate agents or owning real estate because of the horror story of tenants. Or
Right.
if your single family rental in Pensacola doesn't rent, like you have to still pay that mortgage. But in an apartment complex, you've got 147 doors or whatever it is, all giving towards that mortgage. It's a lot bigger, but just instead of one person being gone, you've got less vacancy for that one family, single family, than you do for the apartment complex. So yeah,
Right.
you're on the we're on the right path just to continue going towards and the scalability. What's your goals for the next 5 years? What do you want to accomplish?
So yeah, that's a great question. In the next 5 years, I want to accrue at least two more single family homes, if not more. Part of that's contingent on how much I get my wife to jump into this as well,
Yeah.
and using her VA loan. That's definitely the case. Additionally, I started a wholesaling business here in Pensacola with another classmate of mine, and I would like to wholesale at least 5 deals, just to bring in some extra capital. I want to become LP on at least one more deal, right? Yeah, I was able to do this one with this, Brian Briscoe's unit. I would like to become another LP on another deal, and then really over the next 5 years, if I can close an apartment, that would be great. If not, at the end of these next 5 years, I want to have all the education, knowledge, and connections under my belt to like actively, not just screw around, but like be serious when I pursue it, be serious when I reach out to brokers, actively look. I don't think I fully have the education and everything under my belt to do that yet. And I'm realizing more so now that like if you start calling brokers, it's you basically the fear of being labeled a tire kicker, right?
Yep.
If I start calling brokers like, oh, like send me properties, and I'm nowhere near even being ready to close on one, it's like that. It's just such a reputation that might follow me, right? So I think over the next 5 years is going to be a mindset, a growth, a education period. Still doing the investments I know how to do now. With single family homes and wholesaling and becoming an LP and more deals. Doing that over the next 5 years, but really focusing on growth. Mentally, and really in terms of education, so that at the end of these 5 years, and I'm past flight school and past all that, I can really like seek an apartment building and be serious about it.
This is why I love talking to people that have similar mindsets because you have just this desire to learn and to grow and to absorb as much knowledge as possible. And I think for us, it's starting early. We have such a better foundation going forward than, in 20 years or whatever. Like you said, real estate,
Absolutely.
just like stocks or anything else, it's a buy and hold asset. You can make money in the short
Mhm.
term by flipping it, but that's kind of the way that I'm going is buy and hold. That's why we bought this condo in San Diego, just to kind of hold on to it, let somebody else pay the mortgage down, and yeah, because that's what you did in Pensacola is you bought that house with the three and you're house hacking, and so they're covering your mortgage completely.
Yes. So, and yeah, if you want, I could jump into the numbers a little bit on that. So the house we're talking about is the one I'm in right now. This is
Yeah, let's
this
do
is
it.
my room. So it's a 4 bedroom, 2 bath. It's a brand new build. So I looked around at some older homes, but there's new builds going up here that works because of how low interest rates are in Milton. So I got a brand new build home. It's got 4 rooms, two baths. I stay in the master bathroom, and then there's 3 bedrooms with 1 bathroom that I've rented out to 3 roommates. My mortgage, interest, taxes, or insurance and taxes and all that is about 1210 per month. And then between the 3 roommates, I'm taking in 1950 per month. And now, so here's the thing. So that sounds like amazing. It's like what if you did the quick math? That's like $700 in cash flow.
Right.
Wrong. It's not $700 in cash flow, right? Because and this is the biggest thing I find with people trying to jump into this really quickly is you subtract the mortgage, insurance, and taxes and all that stuff, but then you have to I take away about $100 a month, set it aside for future repairs. $100 a month set aside for future capex. $100 a month for vacancy, so that over a year I'll accrue enough to cover 1 month's mortgage. Like, all of these tax prep, right? With a house and depreciation, that's not something I'm going to be able to do myself. So I got to pay a CPA this year, right? So I'm accounting for that in my expense, right? And so once you take all these off, it cash flows like 370, which is good, which is really good. But my point is that, like, I have heard a lot of stories and people, especially in Pensacola, they're like, yeah, I just bought this house and I rent it for 1,200 and my mortgage is 1,000. I'm cash flowing $200. And I'm like, no, you're not, because because the first, like, water heater that breaks, you're screwed, right?
Yep.
So yeah, but this house definitely, has shown me a solid proof of concept, because even with setting aside about $400 a month for all of the expenses I account for, I net about 380 in cash flow.
And that's an excellent point. I appreciate you bringing that up, because people jump when they see numbers like that. You're like, wait, you're making $700 a month? Like, you're going to be loaded. But no, you got to think about all these other things that Tony just talked about. So don't forget those things when you do an underwriting of a single family home. You got to pay attention to the extras. And especially with the new build, you're not going to have as many breaks as an older one, but you still have to account for some things are going to start breaking over time.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. You could say, okay, it's a new build, I'm not going to have any repairs. But if you don't account for it now, then in 5 years, 10 years, when those repairs start coming in, you're not going to have built up funds to support them, right? So I'd rather oversave now for those repairs, even though there might not be any, so that when they do come, my emergency fund's set. I already have a fund set aside to fund those repairs and not be worried about where that money's going to come from. Additionally, things come up that you wouldn't really think about. I was thinking new build, oh, we're good to go. It didn't have a fence. And fencing right now, because of Hurricane Sally, is stupid expensive. So I had to buy a fence. Homes in Florida don't come with gutters. Who would have known? You know what I mean? So, like, I got to put gutters on this house at some point. Furniture, like, it's just like little things that you wouldn't think of do add up. And again, if your margin is 200 just above your mortgage, it could cause a bigger problem going forward, right? So you need to make sure that there's significant money per month being stored for all those things that can and will happen. Murphy's Law type of thing. Something's gonna happen.
Something will happen. Yeah, it's totally true. So, well, Tony, we're getting close on our time. I have just 2 questions to finish off for you. One is, what advice do you have for somebody that's trying to get started in, or trying to change their mindset, from saving or spending to investing and getting some cash flow?
Yeah, no, great question. Number one, and everyone says it, read Rich Dad Poor Dad, just do it. It's just going to completely put everything into perspective. The second thing is realize that you have time, right? I had a conversation with someone a little bit ago where they had seen, like, the books I was reading, the things I was doing. They're like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I wish I had that time. Like, that's awesome that you're diving into it. And then they went and played 5 hours of Call of Duty.
Yep.
And I was like, if you even just took one of those hours and read about investing, like, it's so, there is time. Everyone has time. It's just where you're putting that time. And that's a personal decision that you got to make. You got to make up here. You got to make that decision. But I think it's a decision worth making. I saw a quote the other day that said, the most successful people do 95% of their life's work between the ages of 20 and 30. And the rest of the time is them enjoying all that work that they built. The flip side is unsuccessful people do 95% of the work at the end of their life when they realize they screwed up when they were too young. Right. So it's, so it's like, it's that choice of, am I going to be good to future me? Like, am I going to be able to travel with my wife and kids and we do what we want to do and live our life, and sacrifice, some nights of drinking, some nights of doing whatever right now. And ultimately you got to figure out, like, I spent this whole past week making a vision board for 2021.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things on there is a picture of my wife, a picture of my dog, a picture of vacations we want to take. Like, all of this is in search of that. So as long as you have a photo or a quote or whatever, like something that gets you fired up, something that you're working towards, that decision of where you're going to spend your time, it becomes a lot easier.
That's awesome. That's so true. I hope that somebody has taken something from this that inspires them to act, because that's the first step, is you have to act. So Tony did. He said, hey, can you come teach me and show me how to do this? So So Tony, you've got a lot of big goals. Where can people reach you if they want to talk to you more?
For sure. Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. Just Tony Tolins. You can connect with me, message me. Additionally, my email is just anthonytolins@gmail.com. Right, so just my name at gmail.com. Feel free to shoot me an email about anything, anything and everything, and I'm happy to help. Also on Facebook, so you can reach out there as well as Tony Tolins. So yeah, either of those three would be good.
Okay, that's awesome. I'll put all three of those in the link below after this video posts. And Tony, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing your success because you are on the right path, man. So we will talk to you soon.
All right, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Great talking to you.